What's up, y'all? It's Scott from Stringjoy Guitar Strings in Nashville, Tennessee, and today we're talking about an interesting thing about guitars. We're talking about whether or not they break in. So you've probably heard about speakers breaking in, but if you haven't, basically it's the idea that if you get a new speaker, whether it's in your guitar amp or in studio monitors or anything like that, where it hasn't really been played for a long time, you need to break it in. This can only really happen over hours and hours of use, and over time its sound will settle into the sweet spot where it'll really give you the sound that it was meant to have. But the question is, does the same thing happen to guitars? Well, actually, yes it does. It doesn't really happen in the case of solid body guitars. It can a little bit, but not quite as much. But in the case of hollow body guitars or acoustic guitars, it definitely happens. Now, this little Squire I have here is actually my very first guitar that I've played in the channel before. It's just a fun little 3/4 size guitar that's kind of fun for slide and stuff like that. In its case, it's been around for a long time, so it has long since broken in. But if I got this guitar fresh, straight from the factory, and it had hardly been played except very quickly for testing, it would need a little while to break in. We're going to talk about why that is and what would happen over the course of its break-in period. So as you may or may not know, guitars are made out of wood typically, and wood is an organic material. Wood will change in its form depending on pressure applied to it, how it's shaped, how it's positioned in the guitar, and especially the humidity or temperature outside of it. So while the wood on your guitar may seem like a thing that just is and it's never really changing, that's not really the case. There's a lot of different stuff happening to this wood. You have pressure coming down from the strings, pressure at the bridge, you have some pressure applied on the upper bout where your arm is resting, again depending on the body style of the guitar or how you play it. You have parts that are settling in, you have glue that's kind of settling down in different places. There's a lot of different stuff that's happening pretty much all the time, even on an older guitar. Things are always changing just subtly over time, things that you can't see, and not always things that you can hear either, but they're changing. Now this is especially the case with newer guitars. If you get a guitar straight from the factory and it hasn't really been very long since it was built and tested, and especially if it doesn't have a lot of life of having strings at tension or being played properly, a lot of these changes are going to happen pretty drastically over the first month or two of you having that guitar. Over the course of that month, the glue will continue to harden, the guitar will adapt to the humidity of your environment and the temperature of your environment, it'll adapt slightly to the strings that are on it, all that sort of stuff, and over time it will develop into its sweet spot and become the instrument that it was intended to be. Humans, in my opinion, are pretty bad at sensing subtle changes, so to us it can be pretty hard to tell that this is actually happening. If the guitar just changes a few percentage points every day, day after day, it's really hard to tell that it's actually really done much, but if you were to somehow play the guitar, then play that same guitar a few months later that had been stored in different conditions and played a different way, it'd be pretty easy to feel and hear the difference. So does that mean that when you get a new acoustic guitar or a hollow body guitar, it doesn't sound its best until it's broken in? Again, these things are all subjective. It's really hard to say what is best. But the point is that the tone will change, and it will arrive at a point eventually where it'll settle down to, and it'll more or less stay at that tonality and that playability for a good long while after you've crossed through that initial period where it really truly is breaking in. So now if you get a new guitar cab or a new guitar speaker or a new set of studio monitors, if you live in a place where nobody really minds the volume, you can just crank music through it for a good long while, enough hours to break in that speaker, and then you're all set to go. The trouble with your guitar is, unfortunately, unless it's like a player piano version in a guitar, it won't just play on its own. You've got to actually play it to get it there. So the best thing you can do if you have a new guitar that you need to break in is play it as much as you can, and over time it'll settle in till it hits its sweet spot. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I'm really curious for all the people watching out there. Have you bought a new guitar and experienced this change in tone from the moment you bought it to a few months later? I would love to hear what you thought happened to it over that timeline, how you felt like it changed in tonality or playability. So let us know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you can keep up with more great stuff in the future.